After the conquest of 1066, England was not yet truly controlled. A crown had been claimed, a battle had been won, but power on paper is not power in reality. William understood this better than anyone. Victory at Hastings gave him opportunity, not security. What followed was the hardest part of conquest, turning fear into obedience and obedience into permanence. William ruled England by force, but not in the way people often imagine. His strength did not come from constant fighting alone. It came from pressure that never disappeared. He understood that rebellion did not need to be defeated once. It needed to be made unthinkable. In the years immediately after his coronation, England resisted. Towns delayed submission. Nobles plotted quietly. The North refused to accept Norman authority. William responded methodically. He moved through the country with purpose, not haste. Where resistance appeared, it was punished. Where loyalty was shown, it was rewarded. Every action sent a message. Obedience brought survival, defiance brought destruction. Nowhere was this clearer than in the north of England. The region had a long tradition of independence and weak loyalty to southern rulers. When rebellion flared, William chose not to negotiate. He chose devastation. Villages were burned, crops destroyed, livestock slaughtered. The land itself was turned into a weapon. This campaign, later remembered as the harrying of the North, was not about victory in battle. It was about breaking the will to resist. The message was clear and brutal. Resistance would not be met with compromise. It would be met with ruin. William did not rule by presence alone. He ruled by architecture. Castles spread across England at a speed never seen before. They were placed deliberately, not randomly. Near towns, near roads, near rivers. Each castle acted as a nerve center of control. From these strongholds, small groups of Norman soldiers could dominate entire regions. They did not need large armies. The castle itself was enough. Castles changed how power felt. Authority was no longer distant or seasonal. It was permanent and visible. The shadow of stone walls reminded people daily who ruled them. Even when no soldiers moved, control remained. William also understood that force alone was unstable without structure. Violence could break resistance, but systems were needed to maintain control. Land became the foundation of loyalty. Almost all land in England was declared to belong to the king. William then redistributed it to Norman followers. This created a new ruling class whose power depended entirely on royal favor. Loyalty was no longer cultural or traditional. It was contractual. Every lord owed service. Every estate had obligations. Power flowed downward from the king, and disobedience meant loss of everything. English nobles were systematically removed. Some were killed. Many were dispossessed. Others fled. In their place stood Norman lords with no ties to the land beyond what William granted them. This made rebellion less likely. The new elite had no alternative power base. Their survival depended on the crown. The church was drawn into this system as well. Bishops and abbots were replaced with men loyal to William. Religious authority became aligned with royal authority. This was not accidental. In medieval society, belief shaped obedience. When church and crown spoke with one voice, resistance became both unlawful and sinful. William's rule was harsh, but it was also precise. He did not rely on chaos, he relied on certainty. Punishment was predictable. Rewards were structured. This predictability mattered. Over time, fear transformed into acceptance. England was no longer ruled by custom alone. It was ruled by command. Language reflected this shift. The language of power changed from English to French. Courts, law, and administration operated in the tongue of the conquerors. This created a clear divide between rulers and ruled. Power spoke one language, the people spoke another. Authority was no longer familiar. It was elevated and distant. This distance reinforced control. Rulers were not peers, they were masters. William also focused on knowing his kingdom in a way no English king had before. He demanded information. Who owned land? How much it produced? Who lived where? Power required knowledge, and knowledge required records. This obsession with measurement and documentation would soon transform governance forever. But even before formal records were completed, the intent was clear. Nothing was to be hidden from the crown. Power was no longer based on tradition or memory. It was based on written control. William ruled England through force, but more importantly, he ruled through permanence. He did not conquer and leave. He did not negotiate and forget. He stayed. He built. He replaced. He measured. He enforced. Over time, resistance faded. Not because people agreed with him, but because the cost of resistance became unbearable. England adjusted. The new system settled in. Norman rule became normal rule. This period matters not because of its cruelty alone, but because of its lesson. William showed that conquest only succeeds when it reshapes society completely. Surface change is temporary. Structural change endures. England absorbed this lesson deeply. Centuries later, when English power reached beyond the island, it would remember what William had demonstrated. Control required land ownership. Authority required presence. Loyalty required dependency. Administration mattered as much as armies. William did not think in terms of empire, but he thought in terms of domination. He understood that power must be enforced until it no longer needs to be tested. By the end of his reign, England was transformed. The kingdom was more centralized, more controlled, and more durable than ever before. Power no longer drifted with personalities. It was anchored in systems. William ruled by force, but he ruled even more effectively by design. And in doing so, he changed how England understood power forever.